Hello and welcome to Retro Vehicles and Machinery. My name's Richard and today I am having a look at my donor replacement 300 TDI engine for my Land Rover Discovery 1. Basically the story with my 300, it was my road car and unfortunately it's dropped a piston. It's coming up to 200,000 and I'm pretty sure it's still on its original engine. I've put a head on it in the past, and since it dropped the piston, I've decided to cut my losses with that engine, and I picked up a scrap Discovery, which is this one over here in the corner. It's a 300 TDI Auto, which I got running. It's only done 120,000, so it's not too bad on the miles. I had it running, driving, it ran beautifully, and it drove well. Sold all the auto box and bits and pieces like that off it as I've been breaking it, and got a few bits to do on the engine. Pulled the engine from it, and since it sat in the workshop, this core plug decided to fall out, so I've got some new core plugs for it. Also got a sump gasket, as the sump was weeping oil around the front here. I've got a set of front and rear main oil seals for it, so the two oil seals, one goes on the timing belt cover and one goes on the inner of the crank there, and a rear main oil seal with a gasket and some core plugs, so hopefully they'll sort out that problem. New sump gasket, turbo gasket off the inlet, or EGR I think it was, off the engine. So yeah, we'll have a look at pulling the sump, doing that gasket first and replacing the core plugs. First I'm going to drop the oil out of this one. I might have already done it when I took the engine out, but I can't remember. So it's got to come out anyway. Oh dear, that's not very good. It's got a load of water in it by the look of it. So now it's very sludgy and horrible. Oh, there she goes. So this engine, believe it or not, did run perfectly. It's maybe been out the vehicle for 10 months or so. I took it out last year sometime. Goodness me, yeah, that's going to want a good flush through. But it did run perfectly, and it drove nicely. Made good power. I will be swapping the Bosch diesel pump over for the mechanical pump that's on the Disco 1 at the moment. I typically, recently, the other one before it blew up had a clutch in it, so I'll swap all that over, and it had a timing belt because the timing belt went on it, but the injection pump failed and pulled the belt off, so it's had all new pulleys and stuff on it, so I will swap all of that over too. But God, that's disgusting, that's coming out of there. Yeah, it's not very nice at all, that is, that oil. I don't know the service history of this engine, but judging by the state of the oil coming out of it, it's not had much of a regular service life. The old 300 TDI engine is a bulletproof old lump, but it doesn't go without filter changes, you know. That's the life of the engine, the oil inside there, and for it to be as bad as that. I'll pull the sump off and have a look. Yes, I seem to be a glutton for punishment running these old Land Rovers. Cooks. put the engine on my crane. Don't know if much more slime's going to drop out of there. Not much came out. I really fancy building a 2.8 300 engine. But the kit, you can get all the crank and pistons, which is a little bit too expensive for me at the minute. One there. One left. Oh god, that's full. Deary me, that is disgusting. Whether or not this engine is actually going to be any use at all lies to be decided. The sump is just full of shit. Oh god. That's really bad. Congealed oil. Look at that, I can pick it up. That's never good when you can pick oil up out of the sump. God, that is bad. Oh no, look at that. So that is the oil that's coming out of this engine. I can pick it up in chunks. Mate. What am I getting involved in? That's what I ask myself most of the time. God. I love them, ain't you? What else do you do? God, that is just... yeah, look at this. I can scoop the oil up by hand. It's revolting. Yeah, it is to be decided whether this engine's going to be any good or not. I say it ran perfectly, but it could have congealed. I suppose it has almost been out of the car for a year, just sitting. So it could have congealed over that time, maybe. But that's got to have been in there for a hell of a long time to go that bad. Like I've had old Rover V8s and stuff going that have been stood for years, and the sumps haven't been this full of crap. Goodness me. Yes, let me get some brake cleaner and we'll have a look. That's dreadful. God, just mop a bit of this manky oil up. The dog's treading in it. The actual crank and that all looks fairly clean. Just all that sludge in the bottom of the sump. Yeah, the journals, I know I've just put some brake cleaner over there, but they're not all hanging apart. I'll just grab a lamp to have a look. It's not... Actually, it does look fairly good in there. Well, time will tell, won't it? I've not got a lot of choices here. 300 engines are getting a bit slim pickings nowadays. The last one I bought quite a few years ago now, I give like 200 quid for it. Gone are the days of finding one for a couple hundred quid now. The Land Rover stuff's either, I suppose, been exported or used in other projects. The old school stuff, you can't beat it, unfortunately. just goes and goes and goes generally. So a lot of people, I suppose, are kicking on to, and if they've got a good one, like my off-roader, it's got a cracking 300 engine in it, but that's my off-roader. I use that for a bit of four-wheel drive tuition and doing a few pay and play days. I don't particularly want to pinch the engine out of a good one. I will have all the strainer and stuff off, so I'll try and clean all that out because that's probably all gummed up with crap as well. So after a serious bit of cleaning, my strainer is looking pretty good. It's gone through the parts washer several times and I've swilled loads of brake cleaner through it, so hopefully we'll be halfway there with it being usable again. It was really cruddy and horrible. Have a look at bolting this little lot back together. Well, that's the strainer back on. Clean off the bottom of the engine there and put a bit of silicone on the gasket, I think. After a while in the parts washer, the sump actually resembles a sump pan again and not some hideous, greasy, filthy, lunked up old load of junk. So that's cleaned up quite well. I'm going to get a wire wheel and a drill and do round the edges next. Sump pan's looking good now, ready to have a bit of silicone sealer on the edges. And I've painstakingly cleaned up all of the sump bolts, put them through the wire wheels, clean all the threads up, and sumps here. I've got some RTV silicone. I'm going to spread that round, and yeah, we'll see if we can get the sump bolted up. Well, that's the sump and silicone on there. See if I can offer him up. And get him bolted up. And say I'll get this engine running. I'm in two minds with it, as it ran absolutely perfectly and it went for a 300. It went ever so well and it wasn't noisy or anything, it was quiet. So I'm going to put it together. I think I'll run it up and then drop the oil out of it just to put some flusher through it, and then we'll see how it is then. I can't believe, well, I would have thought where it's sat when it's been stationary out of the vehicle here in my workshop is where it's congealed so bad, but I just don't know. It does make me question as to how it ran so well if it was running on all that crap. Dagger those little bolts up with the 3/8 impact gun. Yeah, they're tight. Brilliant. Well, Sump's on. It's a lot cleaner than it was. All that gunge is drained out of it. That's the sump plug in for the new washer. It's all fitted up, so we'll have a look and doing these core plugs next. Just put a little bit of silicone on that core plug there. I'll get a socket and tap it in. It's going to be a bit awkward. He's in. Just remove the oil return pipe off the turbo just to be able to give myself a bit of room there. I've just put the core plug in with a little bead of silicone as well. I'll just replace that one for now as the others haven't moved. I don't know why that one chose to fall out. Whether it was just about ready to fall out, I don't know. Join in next time as I swap the engine over.